We've got a prospect guru joining us, and we're going to talk about which Dodgers prospects could be included in a blockbuster deal at the deadline. How all in are the Dodgers? Garrett Crochet versus Tariq Skubal, all that more. Coming up next on Dodgers Dugout Live.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
Welcome to Dodger Stadium.
Dodgers win!
This is the golden age of Dodger baseball.
Grand slam!
It's a double for Freddie. They're going to make big signings. They're going to make impact trades. This is the most anticipated season in Dodgers history.
Dodgers have won it all in 2020.
Think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out.
What is up, Dodgers Nation, and welcome to another episode of Dodgers Dugout Live, the #1 Dodgers show and podcast here on YouTube. Everything you need to know about your boys in blue in less than an hour. My name is Doug McKain, credentialed member of Dodgers Media. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the #1 Dodgers YouTube channel, the Dodgers Nation YouTube channel, where we are giving away a Shohei Ohtani Gray Authentic Dodgers jersey. Once we hit 95,000 subscribers, all you have to do is comment "Go Tawny" down below. But we are announcing today another big giveaway at 94,000. Once we hit 94K, we are giving away a Dodgers jersey for the player that they are going to trade for, whether that be a Garrett Crochet, a Luis Robert Jr., a Randy Arozarena, a Tariq Skubal. You can win a jersey for the newest Dodger at the deadline. Just comment "deadline" down below. Comment "deadline" down below. We might switch it up, Noel, but let's roll with that one for now. So definitely do that. And today it's a special day. I love talking ball with this guy. I've talked ball with the best of them, man. Andrew Friedman and Ken Griffey Jr. and Buster Olney, but Casey Porter of Dodgers Daily, the prospect guru, is joining us. He's forgotten more baseball than most people ever know. Casey, thank you so much for joining us here on Dodgers Dugout Live.
Doug, I say it every time that I go on live, my show, that Dodgers Nation, DMAC, your show especially, is absolutely the best Dodgers content out there. So always fun, and I say this always every time I come on too. It's always fun for my cup of coffee in the big leagues every time I get to talk to you. So, hey, man, on a serious note, though, thank you for having me in. I always really appreciate it when I get to join.
Hey, welcome to the show is all I got to say. But hey, we know you're big league quality, Casey Porter. I love the 89ers hat. That's fire. We talked about that and the rebrand for OKC. I actually do like the rebrand. I actually do like the logo. It's really grown on me. Yeah. But this is a time of year where really you got to hold the keys to what a lot of people want to know about. Which prospects should the Dodgers try to hang on to? Which ones should they include in a deal? But before we get to some of those names, first thing I want to ask you is, because a lot of prospect guys, prospect huggers, guys that want to see, that develop relationships with these guys. I am even in that world now where I talk to these guys once or twice. I'm like, never trade him. He's a great guy, right? I want to see him in Dodger blue. But how all in do you think the Dodgers need to be? And do you think there are any untouchables within these prospects?
I don't think, just by definition, there is anything such as an untouchable. If the right guy comes along, then you deal a prospect. I mean, prospects are like cash. I mean, I got quoted the other day. If your air conditioning goes out and it costs you $8,000 and you have a savings account and you don't want to spend the $8,000 out of your savings account, then why have the savings account? I mean, because, you're going to have air conditioning. So if you're going to have all this great prospect system and pay all of these amateur scouts and have all of this great development and have all the latest technology and equipment and all this, why have all that if you're not going to use your prospects to the fullest capability that you possibly can? Now, you say this all the time, DMAC, and there's two ways to do that. You can do it like we saw last night with River Ryan, who is hitting 98 miles an hour. We saw it with Justin Robleski. We're going to see it tonight with Landon Knack. You can throw them on your major league team, or you can package them and go get a Garrett Crochet and get the value out of them that way. That is the one thing I've probably complained about the most, is allowing the Dodgers prospects, especially the biggest ones, to get a little bit older to the point to where they're almost butting up against losing value. And at that point, like a Michael Busch type of situation, although they did pretty well in that situation. Jackson Ferris is kicking it pretty good. But yeah, so from that scenario, you got to maximize every single prospect. Plus, whenever you trade these guys like a Michael Busch, They get to go have the major league career that they deserve. The Dodgers get the pieces they need to win a World Series. Nobody loses.
Absolutely. You mentioned this Dodgers team and kind of when you need to spend money. Well, this Dodgers team with Ohtani, with 97 of his contract deferred, they are the Federal Reserve. They are printing money right now. You look at 50,000 strong at Dodger Stadium. Just have 40 Ohtani bobblehead nights, and that will take care of all your worries. But the currency is prospects, and you don't always just develop prospects to see them flourish in your own organization like we saw last night with River Ryan, but you also do it to cash in and trade them. So the big question I think that the Dodgers have right now is when you look at these top 10 guys, when you look at the DePaulas and the Rushings and guys like that, are you comfortable with trading them for a guy like Garrett Crochet, for a guy like a Tariq Skubal if he becomes available? Now, first thing I want to ask you is if the same prospects were laid out on the table. Now, the White Sox deal would be a little different because presumably it would include a Luis Robert Jr., even a Kopech or someone like that. But if it's between Skubal and Crochet and you're giving up the same prospects, which of those two starters are you going for?
Well, I mean, I'm going for Garrett Crochet. I think probably 99% of every human being on earth would disagree with me just because of the risk factor of it. And just on the surface, you go, well, man, the Dodgers have had this injury and that injury. The news on Kyle Hurt's not going to be good this week. Bobby Miller had shoulder inflammation. We saw the 60-day IL for River Ryan at the beginning of the year with shoulder inflammation. Michael Grove, who I'm going to talk to this week in Oklahoma City, bruised our Gratterall. Ryan Brazier, I was going to say Joe Frazier. That's kind of funny. Hey, Ryan Brazier, by the way, on the IL. Tyler Glass, now, I think that was more precautionary than anything. Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So I get it if you're going to come at me and go, why in the world would you want to go after a guy who's already passed his pitch limit as far as any other year out there that he's had in the major leagues? And my answer would be because what the Dodgers need right now, I think they have plenty of depth. They have plenty of River Ryans. Ben Kasparius has made his way back. Landon Knack's going to eat innings. We saw that with the move with James Paxton. They're not worried about the depth aspect of it. What the Dodgers need is a guy that can give them 4 dominant outings in the playoffs, a guy that if he goes out there and throws the way that he is capable of, nobody on earth is going to hit him. The guy that I have seen that do the most with his stuff to play up to the point to where not even an Ohtani can even have a chance against him is Garrett Crochet. The crossfire where he lands basically in the first base dugout, the way he whips the ball across his body, the way it gets on you at home plate. He has an element to his throw that nobody else has. I think there are elements of Tariq Skubal that other guys in the system can mimic, if not duplicate in time. I don't think there's anybody has that can duplicate what Garrett Crochet has. So I think the Dodgers have the depth to load manage what they would do with Garrett Crochet to prep him for the 4 starts in the playoffs to dominate those starts and win a World Series. That's where I'm at.
Now, sometimes I like to have a difference of opinion with people on this show just for the sake of debate. But if you watch this show over the last couple months, I planted my flag early, and I have the same mindset, is that Garrett Crochet is someone where if you could guarantee me his health, what he could do in the postseason has the potential to be absolutely lights out. What do we see from Andrew Miller? A .93 ERA. What do we see from a Steven Strasburg? A 1.46 ERA back in 2019. And I think you bring up the best point there. 4 or 5 strong starts, 4 or 5 lights out starts. You maybe can have 4 lights out starts and a couple of appearances where you're going multiple innings of lights out relief out of the bullpen. But how many innings did Strasburg pitch outside of 2019 in the postseason? 0. But what they do, they won the World Series, and they're going to celebrate that for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And I think you look at Tariq Skubal, no doubt about it, he's the safer option. He's a more proven track record, but people are acting like he didn't have Tommy John surgery himself at one point, that all pitchers are susceptible to injuries. And I look at Garrett Crochet, a 35.2% strikeout rate. That's tops in all of Major League Baseball. Who's second? His future teammate, Tyler Glass, now at 33.6. Skubal is at 7th at 30%, which definitely is nothing to sneeze at, right? I mean, that's definitely very strong. But to me, I think Skubal's a strong cup of quality coffee. Crochet's like a bang energy drink, right?
I agree.
I mean, he's so explosive. We know how much that plays up. So I couldn't agree with you more. But then there's the Luis Robert Jr. aspect of this. And by all reports, lots of rumors, guys that we talked to on this show, they've been telling us that the White Sox, they want to do a deal that includes Crochet and Robert Jr. So you're talking tons of big prospects, possibly some big league guys, even the Gavin Luxes of the world. Now that he's playing better and he's increased his trade stock, maybe they go that route. But what do you like or dislike about Luis Robert Jr.? And would you take on Crochet if it means parting ways with some top prospects to also include Robert Jr. in that deal?
1,000%. I would depart with, of course, there's going to be a limit at some point, but I would depart with some pieces that I think Andrew Friedman would feel very uncomfortable parting with. I mean, this is not on brand to just deal away the top prospects for a guy that has, the risk that Crochet would bring. But as far as Luis Robert Jr., I'm not as big on him for the simple fact that this is already an offense that if there's anything that I complain about this offense, they score 15 runs one game, 0 runs the next. It's 2 boom or bust. There's not a focus on executing the offensive game of baseball. It's too reliant on hitting home runs. And then so from that point, it seems like you score 15 runs and win 15-1, and then you go a week and don't score any runs. And that's frustrating to me as a baseball purist and a fan. So hey, I'm not even coming at this like he's not having a great year because he's done a little bit better as of late. That doesn't bother me. He's going to get into the Dodgers lab, into the Dodgers clubhouse and locker room. That will fix a lot of that. I'm convinced of that. It is that elite in terms of the culture that the Dodgers have created. I'm looking at it more as even if he does come over here and he performs, he's going to add to the element of boom or bust that this offense has. And that boom or bust creates a lot of uncertainty when you go into the playoffs, because in the playoffs, you got to win games like you won over the weekend and last night. You got to execute like Teo Hernandez did and hit balls up the middle with 2 strikes and hit sliders that are down and in on you, not thinking home runs, because that's the way that you win the close games and then the high pressure games in the playoffs against the elite arms. Because let's not forget, in the playoffs, you're not going to be facing a number 5 starter. You're going to be facing only the best pitchers that the other teams have to offer. So that puts a premium on executing offense and not just hitting home runs.
I love that point, because that's what we see this time of year. You're taking advantage of middling pitching and you're having these explosive comebacks we've seen of late, these big clutch hits, and all of a sudden it feels like they get ice cold at the worst possible time. And the reason for that is you're facing better competition. You're facing elite arms, high velocity, and that's what wins in the postseason. So that's why I do think Tommy Pham, someone that it's very polarizing. Some people don't like him. Some people think he could be a clubhouse issue. Of course, the Jock Peterson thing, he slapped Jock Peterson. And of course, who doesn't slap their fans when it comes to fantasy football, but digress there. But with Tommy Pham, he has bat to ball. His expected batting average in the 87th percentile. He doesn't strike out a ton. I mean, he's around league average, whereas Luis Robert Jr. strikes out 33% of the time. But for me, it's the upside play there. I mean, a guy that can hit you 38 home runs. He's only played over 100 games once. And then you look at the future of this outfield. I mean, next season, of course, we want to extend Teoscar Hernandez. That's been the movement here. We get super chat money on the show, Casey. We don't spend it. We put it in an envelope in our piggy bank. We're going to give it to Andrew Friedman to give it to Teo for the extension. But you got Vargas, you got Pages, you got James Outman. What do you do moving forward next year with the outfield position, especially in center field? Are you confident that Andy Pages could be that guy?
Andy Pages needs to be the right fielder in the Dodgers organization. He is absolutely a right fielder. The arm is right field. I mean, he has a bazooka for an arm. That's where he's comfortable. I think he didn't play a whole lot of center field at all, even coming through the minors. Of course, that was all before he lost all the weight. So he didn't play a whole lot of center field until he lost the 25, 35 pounds last year, at the beginning of last year. And then he played some AA and then didn't play any AAA because he got hurt in the very first AAA game that he was in AAA Oklahoma City. So Dodgers fans, I don't think they understand how very little amount of center field that Andy Pages has actually played. Now, that's not to say that in time he couldn't be a good center fielder, but I'll say this. No matter how good of a center fielder he ever became, he would be 10 times that in right field. Then you already have a guy like a James Outman that we've seen is a plus defender, has struggled absolutely mightily with the offensive stick. I mean, there's just no two ways to get around that. And you got to feel for the guy because he's one of the fan favorites, and he's such a great dude, and he has so much to offer. We've seen the defense and we've seen the offense when it's good. But if the Dodgers can, that's the one argument I think you would make the most for Luis Robert Jr. is that, you know, like a Jason Hayward, is what he gives you offensively worth not putting Andy Pages in right field and then not going and getting a center fielder that makes you substantially better defensively. I think this Dodgers club is way better with a really good center fielder and then Andy Pages in right. That's just kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, you mentioned James Outman. It turns out it's very difficult to hit big league pitching, and it's no surprise. You mentioned Joe Frazier. I mean, outside of getting in the ring with the Joe Frazier and Mike Tyson, I think hitting big league pitching is probably the most difficult thing to do in all of sports. So, yeah, it's good to be great at one thing. He's great at defense, has to figure out his offense, whereas Andy Pages, it's a little more balanced. And you mentioned the defense in center. He's been around league average. There's been a little bit of a learning curve. He's made some mistakes at times, but I 100% agree with you. You were the first guy to tell me about that hose, that cannon that he has, and to see that in right field, that's something that's going to play up. I think for him, it's just about continuing to avoid those cold streaks and continue to rake. And I love his bat speed too. I think the bat speed is going to play up too in the postseason. Now, when you're going back to Skubal a little bit, the narrative out there about Skubal is that if the Orioles want him, they have the top 15 guys, right? They have those types of prospects to get it done. Dodgers, you got rushing, right close to the top 50, 48. You got DePaul in 63. Do you think that the Tigers look at that as far as just the overall top 100 guys, or do you think there's a way to get a deal done that doesn't include absorbing Javi Baez's contract?
Well, I will say this, and I sat with a Tiger scout about 2 weeks ago, and I made the comment the next day, and I've made it a couple of times. I've been to several different Tulsa games, several different Oklahoma City games. I sit in the sections. The video that you see on my social media is right next to all the scouts. And I see all their TrackMan. I talk to them, carry on a conversation with them. Hey, where are you from? What organization? This and that. I've done that probably 100 times in the last 3 or 4 years. Not one single time have I ever sat next to a Detroit Tiger scout. So I found that interesting. That was like 2 weeks ago, and it's right before the trade deadline. That maybe that's just kind of a tinfoil hat coming on my head because to me, it was like he's here in Oklahoma. And the thing about it was both Tulsa and Oklahoma City were both in town. So he could go see all the prospects in Tulsa, then all the prospects in Oklahoma City. I asked him who he liked on the Tulsa team. The first guy that he mentioned, obviously, was Dalton Rushing. The second guy that he mentioned was Alex Freeland. I did not tell him that Edgardo Enriquez was on that team because I didn't want him to know about Edgardo Enriquez because I don't want anybody on their team to know about that dude because he is absolutely awesome. So the Tigers themselves, they haven't been in the playoffs for almost 10 years. It is a rabid fan base. They are extremely hungry, and they have a bunch of really nice young players. Here's the debate on that. Is that time window when those young players get up and make the next run for the Tigers, is that part of Tarek Skubal's window with Detroit? I think there is a little bit of debate on that. So if the right package is thrown in there, I think Detroit could make the case to their fans that are so hungry that, hey, he is not part of our time window for our next run at the playoffs in a World Series. So let's trade him in for a bunch of guys that will be. I think you could make that case. That's one thing the Dodgers have going for them. In terms of the Orioles, I'll say this. It's not going to be about top prospect rankings. Is it top 100? Is it top this? It's going to be about what the Jack Murphys of the world, the pro scouts that I sat with at that game, what they evaluate with each player, and then also the needs that the other team has. So you look at, okay, well, he's ranked number 3. Well, if they already have 6 catchers like the Dodgers do, I don't care if he is your number 1 ranked prospect. They're not going to want that guy. So it's going to come down more to fits. And I think overall, maybe the Orioles have the highest rated prospects, but the Dodgers have the most that could fit into any puzzle that an organization might have in terms of their needs. So I think that's the advantage the Dodgers have.
Yeah, first and foremost, I love that. I love the tinfoil Casey Porter. You're getting a lot of love in the comments. We got Casey Porter from Dodgers Daily. Definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel. Go follow him on Twitter. They're saying down below, Casey, that it feels like it's Christmas. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. That definitely is how it feels. And hopefully you got a Crochet and a Skubal under the tree and guys like that. You mentioned Edgardo Enriquez, by the way, nasty. 103-mile-per-hour heater, a 96-mile-per-hour slider, just ridiculous stuff. But I think that's the best point right there, is that, yes, if you trade with the Orioles, you got a Jackson Holiday, you got guys like Kobe Mayo. They're going to win Twitter, right? They're going to win MLB trade rumors as far as how it's reported. They got XYZ, their top 3 prospects, but that doesn't necessarily mean that those guys are going to materialize and turn into big-time contributors moving forward. And if you are the Tigers, you're best served to trade Skubal when his value is at its highest. It's at its peak, because 2 years of team control, that tells me you're in for the long haul. And if you're in the long haul, might as well get as many lottery ticks as you possibly can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you think that he is part of the window of winning a world championship with all the players that you have in the system. Austin Brubaker, my co-host, does a wonderful job. He lives in Michigan, and he'll tell you that he doesn't really think, he thinks that window, he's going to back up right to it. I think it can kind of go either way. So I think that's going to play a major factor in it. And I'll say this too, Doug, I said this the other day, is that the Dodgers, and I can tell you this comes straight from the scouts. This comes from all the minor league players that come from all the different organizations, like an Austin Beck that I got to talk to, or Trevor Betancourt, or Ricky Vanasco, or a Kevin Gowdy. I can tell you this, the other pro scouts and the other systems are going to trust the Dodgers developmental system more than they're going to trust any other system. So when they're looking at a player in the Dodgers system, they look at that player as more of a sure deal than any other organization. I am absolutely sold on that. So even if, say, a guy in the Dodgers organization might be ranked a little bit lower than the Orioles, that guy's going to have a lot of street cred with scouts because he was developed by Rob Hill, because he was developed by Dylan Nashaka, because he was managed by Scott Hennessy and John Shoemaker. And then, last year was Daniel Nava, before that Austin Chupp, and then Travis Barbary. And then the hitting coach is Emmanuel Burris. Hey, the other day I was in Oklahoma City, Jamie Wright was there. Rick Honeycutt's walking around. You got Charlie Huff walking around. So these prospects in the Dodgers organization gain a lot of credibility with the scouts in the other systems.
Yeah, I think that you said it best. You mean just to put it out like that, knowing the trust and the reputation that the Dodgers have around the league. They know the resources that they pour into this farm system, not just from the coaching, but even the nutrition, the analytics, just doing everything they possibly can do to optimize these players so they can either use them, they can play them, or they can trade them. I think this time around, after you went out there and you committed over $1 billion, $1.2 billion in the offseason, you went out there and you brought in Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto. You traded for an extended Tyler Glasnow. How much urgency do you think they need to have, and how long do you think this first window is? I think there's going to be multiple windows with Ohtani, but I think this first window with Mookie and Freddie still in their primes. You just extended a Will Smith. You have Teoscar for 1 year. I think the urgency has to be at a 10.
Yeah, absolutely it does. It reminds me of, this probably dates back before you, but Gary Ward at Oklahoma State built a dynasty in baseball. Never won a national championship. You know why? He never won the first one. So whenever you go out and you spend $1 billion, I'm telling you what I'm trying to tell you about the pitching part of it. There is going to be so much pressure on these guys, especially after the way the playoffs have gone in the last 3 or 4 years, to win that first World Series. Because I can tell you right now, I consider myself, I've been in the coaching industry forever. I played before that, been around baseball my entire life. And I'm telling you right now, everything that comes out of my mouth, it seems like, is, well, in the playoffs, well, in October, well, and I'm like, dude, I need to just stop and be in the moment and enjoy the 162 game ride. But it's like, I can't, because I'm just so obsessed with what's going to happen in the playoffs, because I'm so worried another, just one of those collapses is going to happen. So there is going to be so much pressure on these guys. The way that you get over that, DMAC, you've said this a million different times, is you fire out there 4 guys that the other team can't score on. And no matter what happens offensively, that gives you the time to score 3 or 4 runs and win a couple of games early, get you comfortable, and move on down the road. So that's why I think the number one thing you have to fix is another dominant starter. Third base, you need to fix third base because I don't trust obliques with Max Muncy. But having said that, I just don't see anybody else out there to fix it. I told Clint yesterday, I think maybe your best option that you need to be rooting for the most is Gavin Lux continue to rake. Miguel Rojas maybe moves over to third base as far as your in-house options. And so other than that, I don't know what the trade options are. I loved your idea of Tommy Pham, and for several different reasons. I love the bat to ball. Yes, that's great. But I think the dog in him is something that this Dodgers club can use. Hey, before 2020, the last time they won it was 1988, and that was one of the reasons that slam dunked me being a diehard Dodgers fan. You know why they won it? Because they brought in a dog that year. That dog's name was Kirk Gibson, and he didn't give a crap what anybody else thought. That was already there in that Dodgers locker room, and Oral Hershiser says it himself. They went from being the laid-back Dodgers to the, wow, who's this dude, to having a lot of kick-ass in them, and that got them over the top. I love that dog whenever you bring people in like that.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. That some guys, the heart rate slows down when the lights get bright. Some guys, they just can't handle it. And you got to go out there and be able to come up big in big spots. And I think that Kirk Gibson's the perfect example in the organization. They have Teoscar Hernandez. He could be their Gibson. Hopefully he doesn't get injured, right? But you got a lot of guys. I think Ohtani's going to rake in the postseason. But you bring up Gavin Lux. And I think that is one of the big wild cards now heading into the trade deadline. Because just 2 weeks ago, it looked like he was headed to either getting traded or getting optioned, and there was no way to defend anything else. This is where the offensive production was. I mean, you're talking about some guy 30-40% below league average. Last 2 weeks, hitting over 300, slugging over 600. The only person that's slugging more than him in the last 2 weeks is Shohei Ohtani. So for himself, if he wants to be a Dodger, especially at this level, he's doing it at the right time. But what are you seeing as being the big difference in Gavin Lux in the last 2 weeks?
Well, the last couple of weeks, I think he's feeling the roster crunch. I mean, just look at James Paxton yesterday, man. That came out of the blue. We knew they had to create a 40 and a 26 for River Ryan, but I don't think anybody woke up yesterday going, hey, you know what? I think that the guy that they're going to DFA to make room for River Ryan is going to be James Paxton. I don't think anybody, I mean, if you're making that claim, then you need to go to Vegas and you need to go win some money, because that would be a pretty unbelievable prediction that you made there. Okay. So I think Gavin Lux is smart, man. This is a young man that is very conscious about his surroundings. You know this young man. He wants to do well. He wants everybody to like him, and he wants to be a good player. I think sometimes that's a blessing and a curse to him. I think the blessing in it is that it motivates him to work very hard. I think the curse is, I think it keeps him up at night worrying about, hey, man, I got to do something to figure out how to produce. So at some point, D-Mac, whenever you look at the roster crunch, and you go, you know what? I'm gone, man. It's going to be Miguel Rojas at short, Mookie Betts at second. There is a point where you hit rock bottom, and whenever you hit rock bottom, you just kind of go, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go out there and be Gavin Lux and give it the old heave-ho. And I think that's kind of the situation he was in, and that relaxes you to a certain extent. And then I will say this, too, with the knee injury, and of course, it's been a long time, so we got to get past that. It's kind of like using the excuse of, hey, he's a freshman. Well, at some point, he's no longer a freshman. You got to quit using that excuse. So, but I will say, though, I do know for a fact that he used some of his old trigger mechanisms in his swing that weren't effective because of the knee. So that played a lot bigger factor than a lot of people think. And I think when you put all that together, it's led to a lot longer window of not success than a lot of us have been comfortable with. Nobody's a bigger fan of Gavin Lux. Even I, a couple of weeks ago, had to say, hey, if Mookie's back tomorrow, it is what it is. I believe in the merit system. It's got to be Mookie at second and Miguel at shortstop. So, hey, glad to see Gavin Lux kick it in gear, though.
I agree with you. I think Gavin Lux probably said, hey, I'd love to go hang out with Casey Porter down at OKC, but I would much rather stay in LA
here,
and pursue a World Series title. I could not agree with you more. You're seeing the strikeout rate go up a little bit. It feels like he's almost more comfortable to go out there and take some more risks early in counts. You see him use the other part of the field, the opposite shot the other day, double down the line in left. I think for him, some players, it feels like they have the talent, but the confidence isn't there. Some players, they have the confidence, but the talent will never catch up to that. It feels like confidence is really the last missing piece for Gavin Lux. And it's not just confidence knowing I can go out there and do it, but as you point out, confidence in the body, the connection to the ground, and everything seems like it's synced up. And I think if you're the Dodgers right now, it makes it a very difficult conversation because we know that Miguel Rojas is one of the top 5 defensive shortstops in baseball, has struggled at the plate in July. You wonder how much of the everyday shortstop role will bleed into his offense. And then there's Mookie Betts. Do you trust Mookie Betts, Casey, at shortstop in the World Series with the game on the line? We know it's Mookie Betts, man. This guy's a superhero, first ballot Hall of Famer, but a guy that's starting full-time at shortstop for the first time in his career at age 31. Do you trust him at that position on the biggest stage?
I trust Mookie Betts in everything. In fact, I probably trust him more in the big stage than I do in a rando game in July that you're not going to remember 2 months from now. I trust Mookie Betts in every walk of life. And here's the most uncomfortable part of it for the Dodgers is if Max Muncy doesn't come back, what are your options? I mean, so the question at that point becomes, is Gavin Lux better than any other thing that you have to offer at third base? Is Gavin Lux better than Kevin Biggio? Is Gavin Lux better than Kike Hernandez? Is Gavin Lux better than Chris Taylor? That becomes the question at that point. And because they didn't get a shortstop in the offseason, they went into it with a young man in Gavin Lux coming off an ACL. I think that's probably a decision they would make it just because of the injury situation. That's where they messed up. They're in a situation now to where I'm not sure they're going to have a choice anyways. If they can't, if Max Muncy doesn't come back. Now, if Max Muncy comes back, this whole conversation is probably moot anyways. But to answer your question, I would trust Mookie Betts even more in the big situations, even at shortstop.
Yeah, for Mookie, you never want to bet against the guy just because he wants to be great. He knows what it takes to really do anything that he possibly can within himself to go out there and get the job done. And the bottom line is if he kicks one early in the game but hits 2 home runs or it's a double and a home run, you just kind of look at the net benefit of it. And look, if Gavin Lux is going to perform at this level, you're starting to see the speed. He's a little more of a dynamic base runner of late. If you can trust him there defensively, which you have been able to all season, it does make sense. But you brought up the best point. A lot of times we'll debate things in the Dodgers land when it comes to roster crunches and the rotation, and then it all just magically sorts itself out. Either guys get injured or they don't come back or guys get healthy, but really it just all depends on the health of Max Muncy. Now, the later this gets, the more concerned I get with Max because he was really on his way to having his most complete season as a big leaguer as far as offensively, defensively, really got comfortable there at third base. He told me that it felt like he had found a home there at the hot corner. And offensively, he was on pace to hit 36 jacks and have 100 RBI. But I'm still holding out help he can. But how much is the oblique, just specifically, the later this gets, do you think that he can come back and find a rhythm before the postseason if he comes back at some point mid-August, or think that's a little too late to expect that?
That's a great question. I'll tell you this. I would bet on the side of it's too late. And just only because just being around oblique injuries, you just can't trust them, man. It's like those hamate bones. Yeah, you might be able to come back. And here's another deal. It's not like this is a guy with a tall backside that's trying to hit like Tony Gwynn and just trying to slap the ball into left field. This is a guy that's trying to hit 30 home runs. And so that oblique injury is going to affect him more than it would a little slap hitter that's trying to throw one into left field. So, man, I'll tell you what, I just think the Dodgers at all turns right now, I think they've tried to think this way too, but there's just I think it goes to show you there are no options out there because I think they're thinking right now that they need to figure out another plan other than Max Muncy because even if he does come back, I just don't trust that oblique situation at all. And then also Max Muncy's an okay defender, but if you're throwing him at third base and he's not fully healthy with the oblique, and then you're not also getting the offense, you're actually making yourself worse than if you put Miguel Rojas at third base, who would at least be a great defender over there. So there are a lot of moving parts to this. Those questions will have to be answered here. I think there probably is a cutoff line. That's kind of what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
What would be the cutoff line that's too late? I'm saying first week in August, second week in August, something like that. I think it could be that soon that the Dodgers have to go, hey, this isn't going to work. We have to permanently fix this.
And that's why this is such a complicated deadline for the Dodgers, right? You're trusting on, does Yamamoto come back and pitch like a number one or number two? Can Kurz come back and be effective? We're talking about Bobby Miller. Can he find it and get back to what he was last season? I mean, River Ryan, will he keep taking steps in the right direction? There's just so many what ifs. But you mentioned that dog, Max Muncy's dog. It barks louder than any dog out there, especially in the postseason. So having him back would be big. So we're going to switch gears. I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit here, Casey. You're Andrew Friedman. Do you green light this trade if you are Andrew Friedman? The Dodgers get Garrett Crochet. You got that ace under 2 more years of team control after the season. Luis Robert Jr., a perennial all-star potential hitter, a 30-plus homer guy, an above-average defender at a premium position. You get the rest of this season and 3 more years. So tons of team control for both those guys. You get Crochet and Robert, and the Dodgers, they trade DePaula and Rushing, their top 2 prospects, along with Miguel Vargas, Zaire Hope, and Justin Robleski. Do you green light that deal, Mr. Casey Porter?
I probably don't green light that one. And the 2 prospects there that throw the wrench in there for me would be Robleski and Rushing, because I think Robleski is going to have, I mean, he's a 98-mile-an-hour left-hander with the sweeping slider and the sinker that turns left. He has every shape. You talk about that word dog. He's a dog, man. I've seen him all the way back to OSU, going all the way back to his Clemson days, all the way back to his JUCO days in Florida. This, just like River Ryan, man, this guy thinks like a dog. So the Robleski part of it would be a no for me. The Rushing part of that would be a no for me.
Yeah, Robleski is the one that I'm just so impressed with. I love how he can change speeds, go from 93 to 98. I mean, he's got the run, he's got the stuff. And yeah, I mean, these guys that are coming up and pitching at Dodger Stadium, like River Ryan, like a Robleski, and they're not fazed by it, that tells you that you start there and then you end up in the postseason, the World Series. Those are the guys that can handle it. But I think if you look at those 2 top guys, though, would you be okay with including a Rushing and a DePaula and then some mixture of some other top 15 to 30 guys to get those 2 players?
1,000%. 1,000%. Hey, Dalton Rushing is on my most untouchable list, but Garrett Crochet slams the door open, or I should say breaks the door open on any untouchable list, because if it has to do with getting Garrett Crochet, then all bets are off.
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea of not adding and instead you're trading. So to me, you're trading Robleski for Crochet and you're not actually adding to your pitching dominance. So, any other big prospect that's not already a pitcher like Justin Robleski, I think you're good there. Hey, add a Jackson Ferris or somebody like that that's still 2 or 3 years away. Fine. The Dodgers have already won a couple of World Series by then, and who knows where you can go from there. Maybe you can go get him back.
And I think for the White Sox, too, you're looking for these younger guys that a lot of people haven't even heard of, just because you're headed for a down-to-the-studs type of rebuild, right? You want as much upside as possible because you're trading away 2 key pieces that are under multiple years of team control, so you might as well get as many. So switch some other gears to really diving into the farm system. First I want to ask is, what is the state of the Dodgers farm system right now? Because last season you had the names like Bobby Miller and Gavin Stone, Nick Frosso, those guys. Has the new class kind of arrived for those brand names in the Dodgers farm system? And who are those guys and how they compare to the previous years?
It's not as top-end talented, not even close. I mean, last year, I can tell you, I did probably 8 or 9 different articles and or podcasts where I was saying, hey, it's an organizational sweep. Now, let's not forget Oklahoma City won the PCL last year. Tulsa got absolutely ravaged, their pitching staff did. But the first half of last year, they were the best team in all of the minor leagues. Great Lakes made it all the way to the Midwest League Finals. So did the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. So squarely, there is not as much talent in the system this year. I mean, you lose a Michael Bush, and then you graduate guys like Justin Robleski and all those guys, Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, Kyle Hurd, Landon Knack. Now they're all in the major league club instead of in your minor league system. So there's not near as much talent in it right now. It's kind of in a transitioning phase. And what it is right now is it has just a bunch of really solid players. Now, Alex Freeland, I think he is a superstar in the making at the AA level. And then what you have around him are a bunch of guys that are just really high baseball IQ, just really kind of dirt daubers, if you will, guys that just figure out how to play the game, like a Taylor Young, like a Janer Fernandez, like a Bubba Aline, a Griffin Lockwood Powell. guys like that are just really gritty, tough, just good baseball players, but not the guys that's going to be put in the headline of a trade to go get a Garrett Crochet. And then you look at the Great Lakes Loons team. I mean, you got guys like Kyle Nevin, good player, not going to be a top headliner in a trade. I think Chris Newell is a guy that could be, I think when people see him, the first thing they're going to think of is Cody Bellinger. Just the way that he looks, the way that he runs, the way that he hits bombs, his good arm, his athletic ability, the positions he plays. But beyond that, then you got just a bunch of guys on that team that, of course, Jake Geloff can hit bombs, but you got a bunch of guys that are just really good baseball players. Tyrone Lorenzo is another guy that's a pretty big prospect. But again, and also, too, there are some good pitching pieces like a Jackson Ferris, a Peter Hubeck, and a Ben Kasparius, and Carlos Duran made his way back yesterday or a couple days ago. But there's not the Bobby Miller and the Kyle Hurt and the Nick Nastrini and the Jordan Leisure and the Clayton Beater and the Landon Knack and the Michael I mean,
such a surplus.
The thing about it is, it was so ridiculous about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not sure we'll ever see that again.
Yeah, the surplus was insane. And you mentioned Freeland, though. That I find extremely fascinating as far as the Dodgers feeling like they're shifting to more of an emphasis on wanting to pinpoint some position players. Is it particularly in the shortstop position? You see Freeland, he entered that Baseball America top 100 at 98. What do you think his ceiling is with this organization and in Major League Baseball?
I think his ceiling's very high, and I'll tell you why. I think he has a high floor. And I think with some guys like an Austin Gothard, it's all going to be about how high can he raise his floor. It's not going to be ever how high is his ceiling going to become, if that makes any sense to you, because he's going to be all about, hey, what are we going to get from this guy every day? But there are some guys like Alex Freeland that have so much talent that the higher they raise their floor, the higher their ceiling goes too. He's one of those guys. So what I mean by that is last year there was a lot of swing and miss in his game. So you're looking at him, you're going, he had 31 stolen bases. When he does hit a home run, it goes all the way to the moon. I mean, the guy's got all this talent. He's great athletic ability, but there's this hole, there's that hole, there's this, and there's that. So when you plug those holes, what you're doing is you're raising your ceiling. And then when you're raising your ceiling by plugging those holes, now you're making yourself a better top-end prospect because you've always had that top-end talent. Now you have that top-end talent without the holes at the bottom. That's what Alex Freeland has done for himself this year. So by raising his floor, he's also raised his ceiling. Now, as far as what type of ceiling type of guy that he can be, he's a definite surefire potential 2020 guy at the major league level at the shortstop position. He is an outside fringe 30-30 guy, and he is a shortstop that's going to be, probably a little bit better than Corey Seager defensively. I mean, it's not going to be anything like just unreal or anything like that, but it's going to be very solid and certainly good enough with the offense that he's going to pair with that. Keep in mind, he is a great athlete. Now, if you're looking for the glove, Noah Miller's the guy that you're looking for there because he was the Gold Glove winner in all the minor leagues last year. Now, he wasn't in the Dodgers system when that happened. He's at the Great Lakes level. But when you're looking for the guy that can do everything very well, that guy definitely is Alex Freeland.
Yeah, I was just about to say, look at his swing. He looks like a 20-plus home run guy. You pair that with average to above average defense at the shortstop position. Yeah. Well, then you're looking at a guy that can take home $150 to $200+ million on a contract. That's what plays up. Now, when you look at the organization as a whole, we know that they can spot talent out of a moving trade, and they can find guys in other organizations. Jackson Ferris, you saw they got in the Michael Busch deal. But as far as the biggest risers this season, guys that maybe heading into this season weren't as well known to almost having a rise through the ranks, who are some of those names that really stand out?
Well, the absolute number one name that has stood out the most has 100% been Edgardo Enriquez. I mean, this is a guy that, of course, he was a starter way back when I was talking to the Tigers scout, and actually the scout for the Dodgers was there, and he mentioned Edgardo Enriquez, and he's like, is he not a starter anymore? So he remembered him as a starter. But this is a guy that hasn't pitched in the last couple of years because of Tommy John surgery. Finally got back, pitched in the spring breakout game, and Dodgers fans were like, whoa, who's this dude, right? And then all of a sudden you're seeing 103. I saw it with my own eyes, 94-mile-an-hour slider, and I'm like, this is like a video game. I mean, this isn't even real. So I think the absolute number one fastest riser in the system, 1,000%, is Edgardo Enriquez. And then the second fastest riser, you've already seen him at the major league level. There's no doubt about it. It's Justin Robleski. This is a guy that at this time last year was just getting moved up to Double-A, and his first 4 or 5 starts at the Great Lakes level, at the high A level, was like he'd give up like 3 runs in 4 innings or 4 runs in 3 innings, and it was just he was kind of like his first 2 starts in the major leagues. He was real close, but it was like a pitch or 2 here or a pitch or 2 there, and it kept him from throwing up zeros. And then he turned that corner, and then he started this year, dominated Double-A, spent almost no time at the Triple-A level, and boom, there's Justin Robleski. I've mentioned this other young man as well many times, the Maytag Jack Dreyer. He is an undrafted free agent out of the University of Iowa. He's a guy that in 2019 pitched a little bit at Iowa, then 2020 got canceled at the minor league level. Then he's had injury after injury, did not get to pitch at all until last year. And boy, has he been absolutely fantastic since then. Another guy that I wanted to bring up that maybe Dodgers fans don't know, he was actually a high school teammate of Cody Bellinger, and actually got a chance to talk to him. He was Bellinger's bucket boy. So like when they were taking BP, Logan Boyer's who I'm talking about, they're in Chandler, Arizona. And Boyer was a freshman, I believe, don't exactly quote me on the years, but he was younger than Bellinger. And so when they were taking BP, Bellinger would say, "Hey, Boyer, go get the bucket." And so Boyer thought, "Hey, man, that's Cody Bellinger. I'm going to
awesome.
get that." So he was Cody Bellinger's bucket boy. But anyways, long story short, went to San Diego State, actually played with Alan Trejo at San Diego State, came to the Dodgers. He was a catcher. He's a big-time catcher. And then he transitioned over in college to being a pitcher. And he's about 98 right now. And this is a guy that's really, really good. Changed his grip on his slider, he's calling it a cutter, has a slider orientation to it. But when Logan Boyer gets more innings under his belt, watch out, because this guy has definite closer potential. And then the last guy that I think has improved his stock more than anybody other than Edgardo Henriquez in the entire system, probably number 2, is Lucas Webb. Lucas Webb out of Canada. He originally went to Pratt College in Kansas, went to a couple shows, actually went to the Sun Belt tournament here in Oklahoma, got seen by Pratt Community College, went there, then went to the University of Louisiana Monroe, went to some workouts, signed another undrafted free agent signing, and then put on about 20 pounds of great weight over the winter. He's throwing 98 miles an hour, and you'll love this one, Doug. He's throwing a splinker. You ever heard of a splinker?
Love the splinker,
throwing, man.
Love to say it, love to watch it. Yeah. By the way, first of all, if I'm him, I'm putting Cody Bellinger's bucket boy on my LinkedIn so fast. It would be immediately, you're going to get hired because of that. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the talent in this organization, the farm system, they are the lifeblood, but I'm so intrigued by Edgardo Henriquez. I mean, please tell me he's going to be our version of Emmanuel Clase.
Yeah. Plus a couple ticks.
Plus, that's insane. He's my Cy Young, by the way.
Add a couple ticks to that. That's what. Now, hey, there's a reason why some guys are in the major leagues and other guys aren't. You can go to Rancho Cucamonga, which is right next to you, and you're going to watch 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. Just go watch Christian Rubeck. He has the dirtiest stuff of anybody in the system. But the problem is he's liable to walk 3 guys an inning because the execution isn't there. I don't mean that to throw shade at any way. What I'm trying to tell you is, now when I say a couple ticks up from Emmanuel Clase, I'm being dead serious.
That's insane.
In terms of the stuff that he throws south to home plate, south in most stadiums, I guess. Now, is the execution there? I've seen him several different times in person. Haven't seen him enough to know exactly the sequencing and the execution. I know his slider's gotten hit a couple times that I've been there. So Emmanuel Clase, I'm sure, executes his sequences a lot better than Edgardo Henriquez does right now. But in terms of the stuff, Edgardo Henriquez is Emmanuel Clase plus a couple of ticks.
That's unbelievable stuff, and we'd love to hear that. Now, as far as the young pitchers on the big league roster, you reported a couple weeks ago a little update on Kyle Hurt. What do you think his season looks like at this point? Any update on Kyle Hurt?
Not going to be good. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Now, as far as the guys that currently can contribute, River Ryan, he looked great last night, gets into the 6th inning for the first time in his career. 2 punch outs, but still, you saw the potential there. I mean, the run on that fastball, painting the corner. Which of the young Dodgers pitchers outside of Gavin Stone do you think have the chance to have the biggest impact on this year's team?
This year's team, I think, would be Robleski because he's left-handed. And then also, he's the guy that runs it up there 98 miles an hour. Now, when you look at River Ryan, who knows, because you're talking about a guy that was throwing 98. What I really liked about River Ryan last night, Doug, was that he moved the ball sideways, and he did that to create weak contact. Go look at the average exit velos on every single one of his pitches. His four seam, his two seam, his slider, his curveball, and then go look at the amount of strikes he threw with all those pitches. I mean, it's like, dang, man, that's like big time high level execution from, I mean, like you would look at that, all those underlying metrics, and you would think like, this is a guy that has been in the major leagues for like 10 or 15 years working on his craft as far as how to execute the sequences. And then when you add to the fact that it was 98 miles an hour, there's almost 4 feet of break to all that. The stuff of River Ryan is just absolutely insane. I think right now he is probably a little bit more refined than Justin Robleski. And the reason why I say that is Robleski is a guy that is still trying to turn that ball left. You saw that sinker that he's trying to get on the hands of those lefties with. It gets away with him a little bit. So instead, he's throwing that slider to lefties, and sometimes that slider, that's the one that gets hit. So I think it's as simple as this for Robleski. If he can learn how to turn the ball left with the sinker and get the cutter to spots of the zone, cutter / slider, smaller slider to parts of the zone that don't get hit over the fence, you're going to continue to see outings like we saw last time, because that's exactly what happened. But as far as the guy that's the most imminent, if you're to say tomorrow's the playoffs, which guy's going to be on the roster, I think that guy probably would be Landon Knack because of the pitchability. But in terms of explosive stuff, oh, man, when you're talking about Robleski and River Ryan, one's left-handed and one's right-handed. Man.
Yeah.
That's about all you could say about that.
And that's what they want. They want the explosion. They want the high upside stuff that's going to play in the postseason. But yeah, I mean, Robleski, a 17.5% barrel percentage, the hard hit percentage, all the metrics that induce soft contact. He has the potential to do that at an elite level. And that to me is what makes him so enticing. I hope the Dodgers find a way to hold on to him. But I think you're a little biased too, though. Let's be honest. He's an Oklahoma State guy.
Oh, absolutely.
I know. Let's be honest. Okay, come on, Casey. A little biased. There's an OSU Cowboy there. But you know, I always have to get you out of here on this question. What is your hottest Dodgers prospect take right now, Mr. Casey Porter?
Oh, the hottest Dodger prospect take right now, as far as what's going on in the minor league system. Honestly, to be honest with you, there is not a real hot, like last time I had the Maytag, Jack Dreyer type deal. Lucas Webb is throwing the splitter. Edgardo Enriquez is throwing the 103-mile-an-hour fastball with the 96-mile-an-hour slider. I think the hottest take of the entire season, the hottest thing that has happened at the minor league level, that Ronaldo Yin hit 104 miles an hour. That's a pretty hot take, and I can say that it was not on the stadium gun. You go to these minor league facilities and you see the minor league, the visiting radar guns, and who God knows how accurate they are. This, I have it solidified and confirmed. That was TrackMan data. That was from the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. That is a confirmed 104 miles an hour. So I think the hottest take in the Dodgers minor league system this year is that you have 104 mile an hour fastball in it.
I mean, that stuff plays up. Actually, kind of one more question, too. I want to lead everyone over to his page, too. He did an interview with Diego Cartaya. A lot of ups and downs for Cartaya in his minor league career. He did get promoted to AAA. Things started to click for him in AA. What do you think is the number one thing that he's missing to take his stock to the next level? And just kind of what's your overall assessment of Cartaya right now?
Yeah, Cartaya is a young man, wonderful young man. You've had a chance to talk to him a couple different times, too. Actually grew up playing third base and shortstop. I thought that was interesting because when you talk about the logjam at the catcher spot, there is some positional versatility with him and Dalton Rushing and Will Smith too. So let's start out with that. But I've said this many times. I think it's that inside pitch that also leads to the soft stuff away. So, hey, you beat him hard in, soft away. He swings with a negative bat angle, which means his barrel is below his hands as he swings the ball through the zone. And then he also lifts. That creates a situation to where you're going to block the ball off to right field. And so then you have to, like Nomar Garcia was talking about that sinker the other night of Gavin Stone. Now hitters have to cheat to it so they don't get jammed. So I think he's having to cheat to that inside pitch. And when he does that, then he's susceptible to anything soft away. I think that has been the number one hole in his swing. That's been the adjustments that he's been trying to make. And hey, he's been working very hard at it, and he's had a lot of success as of late. But I think if he can close that hole, he can get back to being the Diego Cartaya that we all remember.
The potential is there. He's such a high character guy. But Casey Porter, thank you so much for joining us here. A full hour with Casey Porter. What a great day here at Dodgers Nation. Tell my guy, Austin Brubaker, I said, what's up? I think he's got the best show flow in the Dodgers podcast world. I guess we'll call it pod flow, but he's always doing his thing. We'll have him on the show at some point. But hey, enjoy the deadline. We'll catch up with you soon. Always great to talk Dodger baseball. You can follow Casey Porter on Twitter at Dodgers_daily. Also, subscribe to his YouTube channel. We're going to have the info for that down below. We'll talk to you soon, Casey. Enjoy your time at OKC today, and we're looking forward to a very exciting and hopefully explosive MLB trade deadline for your Dodgers.
Absolutely. Looking to catch up with Jesse Hahn and Michael Grove and Bobby Miller and a whole bunch of guys and throw down some interviews there. So, hey, Doug, always appreciate it so much whenever I get to catch up with you and come on Dodgers Nation. So thank you so much.
You're the man. So there he goes, Mr. Casey Porter, Dodgers prospect guru. Like I said, I mean, I text Casey all the time. I talk to him all the time. This guy can talk Dodger baseball prospects for hours and hours and hours. And that's what we love to do on this show. Just a reminder that this episode of Dodgers Dugout Live is brought to you by Autograph. Autograph is an amazing app where real fans get unreal rewards by bringing the best content for the Dodgers into one place. Autograph is the first app that can recognize and reward fans, turning their passion into access and experiences. Get all your Dodgers content in one place, read articles, listen to podcasts, get ranked and level up so you can win unique experiences to meet Dodgers stars, signed jerseys, and so much more. Download Autograph now using the link in our bio and use code DNAutograph. That's DNAutograph to start winning now. And also a reminder that this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Bet Online. Love me some Bet Online. Bet Online, your number one source for all sports betting needs this season, from baseball, golf, soccer, right to all the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet Online, the game starts here. So great to meet up with Casey Porter. We'll have him back on the show. So much to cover, but really, I think it's very telling right now that the trade deadline has people like Casey Porter and Tim Rogers, guys that cover Dodgers prospects for a living, that have relationships with these players and their families, and they're all saying that the Dodgers need to go all in, that they need to take money out of the 401k and take off the Rolex watch and the wife's earrings, the lien on the mortgage, and push all the chips in the middle of the table. When those guys are saying it, and you, the fans, are saying it, I think the organization realizes that as well, and I think they are going to go big. I planted my flag months ago. I said they were going to trade for Garrett Crochet. I still believe that to be the case. We got Elishiva Jones. Happy birthday to Nomar Garcia-Parra. Where's Mookie Betts? That's from Gotcha Cookie. Yeah, Mookie Betts, it's really been I would say, pretty smooth recovery for Mookie Betts. I don't think that it's been a situation where there's been any setbacks. I've talked to Mookie myself. He's been cleared to swing a bat. You see him at games before the game doing infield work, and it's about just getting that strength back in that field. So Mookie's going to be back, and he's going to be MVP caliber. I know it. But Jay says, hey, D-Mac, today's my birthday. Can I get a shout out before you go? If you sing me the happy birthday, Mr. President, that'd be my World Series right there. Happy birthday to you. Now, I'm not going to come out of a cake dressed like Marilyn Monroe, okay? That's all you're going to get. You're going to be happy about it. Art by illustrator and writer Lori Luster. That's almost like you're advertising with your username. D-Mac, Coach Porter, I love the Dodgers' top-rated pitching development, but it's the double-edged sword. The top production blows out arms faster, so they must carry more starters to compensate terrain. Look, I think Casey brought up a great point in that you want to keep the big league ready starters like the Robleskis, like the River Ryans, in the hope that if these guys go down, you can plug them in right away, whereas the higher upside guys you can try to include in deals. Whack 'em sticks. I think the Orioles are better positioned to get Skubal. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt that the Orioles are better positioned, but Casey dropped, I think the biggest nugget that he dropped was the scouts at the Dodgers games. And Detroit, even entertaining the idea of getting a deal done with the Dodgers, lets you know that they're in the mix. And look, Dodgers are great at developing their talent. So that definitely is well known around the sport. Do the Orioles have more blue chippers? There's no doubt about it, but you can have 4 quarters or $1, right? I mean, that's kind of what you can get from the Dodgers. You can get more volume, and hopefully you can get the same value. No Ortega. I hate to say it. I really do. But I say Rojas on third, Mookie on shortstop, and Lux in second. I don't think Mookie playing shortstop, but Max may not come back. I will say this about Gavin Lux. We should show, as Dodgers Nation, lots of love to Gavin Lux, because Gavin Lux has made his way back from a grueling injury, and he's kept his head down, and he's stayed the course. He has struggled this season at the plate. He said it himself. There's no secret about it. But the last 2 weeks, hitting over 300, slugging over 600. You're seeing better at-bats. You're seeing more slug from Lux. The defense has been above average all season. I think it's time to give Gavin Lux his flowers and give him credit for not saying, look, I'm going to go through with this. I'm going to continue to work. He's done that, and it started to click for Gavin Lux. So he wins National League Player of the Week. I couldn't be happier for the guy. And look, if he's a 10-time All-Star for the Dodgers, it would be amazing. If he's a Hall of Fame for this team, it's amazing. But Gavin Lux, give him all the credit. National League Player of the Week. And, of course, we got our sugar daddy, Whack'em Sticks, always dropping bread in the chat. We got Mark Walters Burner here. We got Whack'em Sticks. He's basically official. This show is presented by Autograph, Bet Online, and Whack'em Sticks. Okay, you are an official sponsor of the show, Whack'em Sticks. This home run, this final walk-off shot is brought to you by my friend Mr. Whack'em Sticks. $100 in the super chat. D-Mac just got my Ohtani ones and put them on literally 5 minutes before Ohtani hit one out of the Dodgers Stadium the other day. I went with the white version. Keep up the good work, my man. Whack'em Sticks. First of all, I know you're a baller because I also got the Ohtani ones, but I haven't got mine yet. You know why? I did the ground shipping. I did the cheapest shipping. You probably overnighted those, okay? And I got the black ones. I kind of wish I'd gotten the white ones, but like I said, I'm going to get the black ones. I'm going to intentionally unlace them, walk by Ohtani's locker. Hopefully he sees them, and then I'm going to tie my shoes. I got to tie my shoes. I don't want to trip. And hopefully he sees them and autographs them and then takes a picture and does all that cool stuff. But that's going to do it for this episode of Dodgers Dugout Live. I guess we'll push some other topics back to tomorrow. Teoscar's extension. We'll talk about more roster moves. River Ryan, I thought, was outstanding last night, but thanks for rocking with us as always here on the #1 Dodgers show on YouTube, Dodgers Dugout Live. By the way, even shout out to the homies today. We got to see what's up with the bullpen over here. Tony Taters and producer Kim, he's been killing it all day. And Mr. Young Lotto, Noel Sanchez. Go show him some love. Check out his reels. Check out his X. Check out his Snapchat. He's killing on the social medias. We got a $1.99 super chat from CHF. I'll give you a Let's Go Dodgers on the way out. But that is going to do it, guys. My name is Doug McKain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. Also, subscribe to the channel. We kind of did a soft announcement of our next giveaway, but I said, you know what? We got to manifest a big trade. And at 94,000, we are giving away a brand new jersey of whoever the Dodgers trade for. You can pick one. Garrett Crochet, Luis Robert Jr. If it is a Skubal, okay, that's the giveaway. Comment deadline down below and be sure to subscribe to the channel. And also, remember, nothing brings together quite like Dodger baseball. Until next time, think blue. We got Delirium. Tony looks like Stanley Kubrick. Did you ever get that one? I like that. Stanley,
who is he again?
The director. It's a tacos and beer kind of day. I love that. Tony Big Taters from Orlando. But thanks again, guys. And as always, see you next time. And remember, nothing brings together quite like Dodger baseball. And until next time,